got my glass. That would be a nightmare.
It would. You have to just drink it straight out of the bottle.
Responsible drinking straight from the bottle. Live on camera. Let's not go down that route. Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to another Blether. We are just catching up. Hopefully, you guys haven't missed much. If you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, feel free to say hello. Tell us what is in your glass tonight. We are going to be drinking something that's new to both Kat and I tonight, I believe. I have tried milk and honey, but not these particular ones, as well as a very special award-winning dram, which we're going to enjoy tonight, which I'm looking forward to. Good evening, Felix. Felix is watching on Facebook tonight. So good evening to you. Good evening, Dominic, on YouTube. So Kat, what's in your glass tonight? What are you starting with?
Well, I've got the samples that were very kindly sent over, and I think I might have found like the very best thing in the world, which is the pomegranate one, which I'm like absolutely loving. So yeah, I'm enjoying this one a lot. It's been sitting in my glass for quite a while because I managed to get those poured and then chaos descended. The longer it's in the glass, the better it is getting.
Okay. Well, I might pour that just now while we do the intros, but I've made a cardinal sin. I've only brought one glass with me.
See, look at that. Even though I'm late, I was organized. I've got my two glasses, my two samples.
I know. God, I'm a terrible host. So I'll pour that just now. So obviously we're going to be looking at these two samples with Shilton. Felix is the way to pour a dram. Let us know what you are pouring. Dominic's couldn't find his expensive milk and honey, but he has a cheaper version of it. The Too Young to Be Whiskey. So that's what Dominic is on. You have to dig harder. You're about as organized as I am, Dominic, in getting the drams together.
Shocking. Surely you have a spreadsheet. You'll have to track that down. Every good collector seems to have a spreadsheet of their whiskey.
It does. Drink from the bottles, Mike. That's what Andrew says from Little Burn Dog. Good evening, Andrew.
I suggested that when I thought we were off air, but apparently we weren't.
Yeah, drinking straight from the bottle live on camera as a responsible whiskey shop owner. I don't think that's going to go down very well. That'll be my chances of keeping the quake well out of the window.
Well, it would, and it is impending. I have a glass with lots of little brown dogs on it. So there you go. I don't think I was gifted it. I think I stole it out of Annette's office. So saws in it.
Look at that.
Matching. So the only glass you could find was a freebie. Well done.
There we go. Anyway, let's bring our guest in. Let's bring Shilton in. And always, there we go. Happy days.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Shilton. How are you?
I'm good. All well. I can't even say I'm enjoying the weather, to be honest, for where I am.
I know. It's annoying because it's warm, but wet. Where are you based, actually, Shilton? Where is it you stay?
I am based in Clydebank.
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, the good thing is that I've got a flight tomorrow to go to India, so I'm waiting for that.
Oh, nice. What time's that flight?
It's in the afternoon, so it's okay. I can drink today.
You are winning at life tonight.
Did you have a festival on over there, or is it leisure?
No, I'm based. My family is in India, so just going in for a week and then back by end of the month. Back from India.
A holiday.
Yeah.
That's the thing about going to see family, though. It's never really a holiday because you spend so much time going back and forth between everybody. You come back exhausted and you need another holiday.
So I like every time I go, and my mom keeps telling me, saying, you have to do this, you have to do that. I'm like, I've been doing it. I just need a break. It's a holiday.
Oh, dear. Oh, good stuff. So did you get back quite often, or?
Back in India, well, I try to get there for Christmas every year. Once in a year, that's what I plan to do. But unless it's something urgent comes up, then. So I was there in May just for 3 days, and then came back, and now I'm going back to get the family back here.
Right. Oh, good.
How long does it take to get out there? Is it quite a long? Is it like a direct flight, or do you have to change?
Well, from Edinburgh, it's one change, so I could do 18, 19 hours total journey. But from Glasgow, I have to get to London and then change again. So I prefer go to Edinburgh. I don't mind the journey from here to Edinburgh and take a flight.
Cool. A wee adventure ahead then, but good stuff. Well earned, I'm sure.
Goa is beautiful. I keep talking about. I should be paid by Goa Tourism for some reason. I keep telling people to Goa.
Is it quite a sort of countryside-based part of India, or is it like a mixture of both?
The southwest on the west coast, so it's basically a lot of people would say like as if you are in India, but you don't feel like you're in India. So it's more on the beach all the time, hot, humid climates. I mean, the best thing I would say, if you can take humidity, then it's okay. You will love it there.
Oh, have you seen how much hair is on my head? I am not built for humidity. Yeah, it's maybe not for me. It sounds beautiful though. I'd love to see India. It looks amazing.
Normally it is 45, 50 degrees, but in the month of May, which is the hottest, the humidity can even go up to 95% humidity.
Oh gosh.
Wow.
Not humid, yeah.
God, we've got our tops off at 22.
Well, the thing is, when we get 19, it drops up to 19 or 17 maybe, and that's winter for us in Goa.
Gosh. So you get quite cold winters as well. I mean, parts of India gets very cold in the wintertime.
Yeah, it gets, but not for Goa. It gets hot and hotter, I will say, but it's not cold. 19 is the lowest it can drop, but still it's humid. So
that's hilarious. So 19 like, yes, summer. Oh,
that's quite funny. My laptop has just come up with a humidity alert as well, and I'm just trying to figure out what that means. What we class as humid in Scotland, but I think it's going to be a completely different level of what we what you guys are going to have, and obviously that affects the whiskey, doesn't it? If we're talking high humidity.
Yep. With the salt in the air, and it's the humidity changes a lot, especially because it is hot. Coming whiskey from hotter climate, it changes the profile of the liquid itself. You know what? There's a funny thing. I always love saying this, and whenever I hear someone saying whiskey mature faster in hotter climate, you must have heard about that, like Taiwan, India. I always say that is very wrong. The best term to use it is that the extraction rate from the wood is higher. That's the best way of saying it. Because I just cannot say that, look at me, I look like 40, but I'm only 20 years old, right? That will be wrong. So it's better to explain to people, but the extraction rate is higher. It doesn't mature faster.
Okay, yeah, good way of putting it. Yeah, because obviously, I mean, the Angel share is a massive part of maybe an issue with the Indian whiskey, especially aged whiskey, because you guys can't really keep it in the cask that long, can you? It just disappears so quick.
Disappears, yeah. You lose a lot. I mean, it's something similar that we have at the moment in Tel Aviv as well. We lose about 11% per year.
Is it 11%?
11% per year in Angel share, and that 11 to 12%. But still, we have a whiskey that is in Tel Aviv, and we have a whiskey matured at the Dead Sea as well, which is the lowest point on Earth. 50 degrees Celsius, very dry, and a lot of air pressure. We have an Angel share of about 25% at the Dead Sea. We cannot even.
Angels are living at large out there. They are taking more than their
the angels, I must say.
That's crazy.
So how long
we cannot even complete 3 years in a cask. So we do only about 18 months over there, and we have to move the cask back to Tel Aviv just because of the maturation. Oh. But yeah, that's funny.
And you guys follow the same kind of warehouse rules as we do in Scotland? Scotland, we're not allowed to control the temperature or anything in the warehouse. Do you guys follow that rules as well, or do you have something?
Everything is the same, although we don't have to in Israel, but we still follow the same rule. The whole idea behind that is if we make whiskey in the same way and follow the same rules, this is what we will get. And that is the whole idea behind it. We had to make a few changes in the whole process of it as well, considering the weather, considering the climate, because it is hot and humid. So we had to change our angles on the line arms. Our cut is different compared to others, just because of the maturation, of the faster maturation thing.
Yeah, you've got quite a high cut point with
We
the.
have 80 to 70, and
Yeah.
that's we have that is the one of the reason is because we avoid we don't want the paints to get in, so we not get the paints in because there is no much time in the cask, because you will need more time in the cask for oxidation, which we don't have. So we have 80 to 70, but to get more body to that, we avoid reflux. And we have a line arm of 45 degrees down. So our line arm itself is 45 degrees down. So we get more oils, more body coming from that. We had to do that because of the climate. Yeah.
You'd rival a line arm that I'm quite familiar with that sort of angles there. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because I read your cut point. I thought that's very, very different, but that makes sense, of course.
That's what I mean, considering. So the whole idea behind the starting of M&H, so we are the first distillery. M&H, which stands for Milk and Honey, but coming from Israel. The whole idea behind that is in 2012, a group of friends go out. Some friends go to the bar, get drunk, and decide, let's come with a distillery. Trust me, that's the story. Gal, who's the CEO today, and his friends, they just went and they decided, let's do this. Let's come up with a distillery. But the biggest challenge is there was no distillery in Israel, so we do not know. That's when we got the late Dr. Jim Son on board. He came on board and helped us set up the distillery. The setup was done in 2014. We started distilling in 15, and January 2020 we launched the first whiskey. A wrong time to launch a whiskey again because the world shut down. But it took us about 5 years from distilling, although it only takes, the liquid was ready in 3 years' time, but 5 years just to decide what we want in our core range. And during this period, we came up with something which I think it is Dominic, is it? Who mentioned that he has got a young single malt, 1 year old.
Yeah.
That is what we got out in the market to get a feedback from people, to see what people think about the liquid. This is 1 year. There was another which was 18 months old. It's a young single malt, it's not whiskey. So we got that out in the market so people, get back to us and think and tell us what to do or get some feedback. In the core range, we started, we use ex-bourbon a lot, ex-bourbon and STR in our recipes. Even the classic as an entry level will be 70% ex-bourbon and then STR.
So the STR casks, did I read on your website that they are better for hot weather maturation?
They work very well for all hot weather because you can get a lot flavors, more body coming out from that. The whiskey is a full bodied whiskey is just because in a short time, because of the type of cask. Mm-hmm. They are ex-red wine cask, red wine barriques basically. So just shave, toasted, rechar, and you get more flavors. Started off with Kavalan. It's been a big success with Kavalan, with those type of casks. And then if you look at all the Dr. Jim distilleries, they still use it. Kiloman, Lindo's, Scotchwell, Penderyn, they all use STR casks. So you get more, and using it as a recipe. For example, our classic is not only ex-bourbon. So it has got about 25% of STR in there. So it gets more character and more body to that because of that STR cask. It works fantastic. For me personally, I've been a big fan of my favorite type of cask I've always been ex-bourbon cask. Till I tried STR, and I'm in love with STR now. So every time I do a whiskey festival, I go to all these brands and say, can I try your STR? Can I try your STR?
Yeah. I guess it's that young spirit that works really well with as well, isn't it? It gives, as you say, it gives you more body, which is ideal. And kind of movement like this has really opened people's eyes up and willingness to try young spirit. We've got so many of them in Scotland, guys like yourself as well, coming through, that probably wouldn't have been as confident 10 years ago to release a non-age or a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old. And that's obviously one part of that is the STR cask, fermentation times and all this kind of stuff as well. They've obviously got a big part to play.
I mean, it's funny because, I mean, for us, as you said, if you have it, and I mean, you know it yourself, you know, if you keep a bottle on the shelf and it's not, doesn't have an age on it, it's very difficult to sell. Or even if randomly someone just picking up a bottle without the age, yes, today it is different, but 10 years ago, I don't see that happening.
No.
It's funny how things have changed, that brands who used to come up with an age have gone to a non-age as well today. You know, even the big brands have just gone to a non-age statement, because for us it is more about a style of whiskey. It can be a sherry, it can be a peated, it can be a red wine, just to suit every palate. That's what we do.
So do you have a peated whiskey as part of your core range?
Yeah. So to make the whiskey, we source. We tried when we started making whiskey. Tomer, our master distiller, we tried some local barley to make. We still have some cask filled in, but we are not happy with it, with the quality, because the local barley is very high on fiber. So what we opted is to source the barley from out of Israel. So we source the barley from the UK to make our whiskeys today. At the same time, we are also working with the local farmers at some point to see, you know, how we can. But it makes more sense to just buy the barley from somewhere else instead of growing your own barley for us in that climate. Yeah. It's more challenging, I would say. But we source the barley from the UK, and to make peated, we also source peated barley as well from the UK, but it's not much. Most of the peated whiskey that we have, we use ex-Islay cask to mature the whiskey. So the peated expression that we have is matured in ex-Islay cask.
Okay, so the barley itself isn't peated; it's the cask that's given the influence. Yeah.
We do also use peated barley, but we use it for some special editions. We don't use a lot of it, but we use a lot of ex-Islay cask in our portfolio to make the core range.
I guess if you're losing up to 25% a year in some expressions, you can't really afford to do too much peat, because then you have to shut down, clean everything out. You're losing that production, which is already at a premium. So it makes sense.
Even if you lose 11% which is our main warehouse in Tel Aviv, that's a lot. 11% compared to what you lose over here. So it actually, but the extraction from the wood, which is higher, it actually works a lot, because even an ex-Islay cask and only a 3-year-old whiskey, there is still a lot of peat in the glass when you pour that. You can still, there are some single cask out in the market that we have done, 3 years, 4 years old single cask ex-Islay. They can actually beat a lot of Islay whiskeys, because more on the peak level of it. You'll say this has got more peat than this coming from Islay. So that is something that you will get. Because I love peated whiskies. If you ask me what's my favorite style of whiskey, I'll go for peated whiskies anytime. So if you look at this, you'll see more peated whiskies up here.
You're talking cat's language. You're loving bourbon cask. You're loving peated whiskey.
We're gonna drink it together, honestly. This is perfect. I see Dominic had the whiskey that he can't find is the one that I was just speaking about. Is that the one you just poured, Mike? The pomegranate.
The pomegranate, that is
juicy.
That's a very juicy is a word I always use, and silky as well. Something which I use for that. It's kind of very fresh. So we are the only distillery who make that. It's a small batch that we do, but it's something that we do every year. And every batch has got some changes in there, a little bit. You don't figure out much of it. But the higher ABV as well, I think that's at 56 or 57% ABV that you have.
Yeah, 57.2.
57.2. So that's a small batch that we do. We are the only distillery who do it. Whiskey matured in the pomegranate wine cask. When I first joined, so I've been with M&H for 18 months now. The first join, I was actually doing a tasting somewhere here in Europe, and I walked in with the pomegranate in my hand. So just in case you don't know what a pomegranate is, this is what it looks like. You don't see that very often here, right? So pomegranate is a part of the culture in Israel. So you find a lot of pomegranate fruits and used, like even for the weather, it's fresh pomegranate juice. There is a winery called as Rimon in Israel, which makes wine from that fruit. And so when we started off, whenever you see the name Apex on our range, Apex is all the fun that we have. Pomegranate wine cask, Dead Sea experiment we have done, white wine cask, rum cask, cognac cask, tequila cask. So we just try all these casks. That's what we call as the Apex. So we thought we'll try this, and we got their cask and we tried it, matured it for 3 years, 3 to 4 years. It's been a big success. And then we thought, you know what, let's stick with this. So we started doing it every year, but the batch changed a bit. We tried to get different wine casks, like from dessert wine or dry wine, all from pomegranate fruit from the same winery. So considering that it's a red wine cask, it is still, it's less tannic, because we have another one which is in the wine cask, it is more tannic, more drier. This is not.
Okay.
It's very, very juicy. It's very fresh. At 57, you don't even feel it is at 57.
No, it is lovely.
57. I thought it was 53.
Just reminds me.
57.
It is 57, yeah.
It's the handwriting.
Yeah, 57.2.
Because for me, when I was nosing it there, it felt quite muted until I tasted it. When I tasted it, went back to smell it, it just exploded with that fruit. It was quite interesting. I didn't know what to expect when I at first tasted it, because it was quite muted. As Kat was saying before we kind of brought you on, it needs maybe a little bit more time in the glass to really open up. As soon as I tasted it, I went back in. I could get that really fresh, juicy, jammy kind of.
I know. I thought it was going to be overly sweet, because sometimes when you get like juice from concentrate, it can be really, really sweet, but it's not. It's just like.
But there's an openness about it as well, isn't it? Just maybe holding that fruit down, keeping that.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, because if I had to say this, then the whiskey itself is fantastic. I love the cask, actually, how they work for us. But the wine, it's not one of the best wines. It's okay. It's great. But the cask worked for us fantastic. So when I was there for the first time last year, after I joined, the first thing I said, I want to try the wine, because I was so curious. I never tried a pomegranate wine before.
No.
So, and you don't find it easily as well around. So I said, you know what, I want to try this. And I got there so I went to the winery and was doing a tour around, and they were telling me this is how it is done, blah, blah. The first thing I said, hold on a minute. How do you crush that thing? Because that's more interesting. I really want to know how you do it. No, the rest of the process, I know, I understand, but I really want to know how you crush that, because it's not easy, right? You take off the shell, and then you have those seeds, and you have those tiny seeds which are very bitter. So, like, do you crush that? Or, because they're bitter, you have to be careful. And the guy was mentioned to me that you have to be very careful and give it a very soft press, because you can't crush it straight away. They are pulpy. You can get the juice out of it, but the seeds are very bitter. So you have to be careful not to crush those. Also, the fruit is not very high on sugar. So you have to use more fruits of those to use it. When I walked out in the visitor center at the winery, the lady at the visitor center mentioned to me, saying, those seeds which are there, the bitter seeds, they're actually used for cosmetics. I never knew this. And she said, do you want to buy some? I'm like, well, I can only buy a beard oil if you have, and nothing else will work on me.
What kind of cosmetics do they use them for then?
I never knew you could use those for. That you use it for cosmetics, but yeah, that's what they were selling at the shop.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to find out. It might be the secret of eternal youth or something. We'll have to.
Yeah. Pomegranates famously aphrodisiacal, aren't they? So you get that involved, and you get cosmetics, and you've got whiskey now, and it seems like pomegranate could be the next superfood that everyone's going to be after.
It's a symbol of fertility, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pomegranate.
The best use that I do of a pomegranate is giving it to my son, so that he is busy with it, playing around with it.
I know, but then they get covered in red juice, and it looks like a sort of murder scene when you go back to them.
It keeps him busy playing that. It gives me like a good 30 minutes to do something.
My mother used to cut a pomegranate in half and give one half to me and one half to my brother. And she'd give us a sewing needle, and we had to eat each pip with a sewing needle. Now that I think back at this, she was probably just sitting for a good hour you know, just enjoying the peace and quiet, making us eat a pomegranate with a needle. I just went along with it. I don't know why. It took a long time to get through a pomegranate with a sewing needle.
It's only just dawned on you now after 3 kids that you could have been doing this the whole time.
Can you imagine how much time I would have got with all that pomegranates?
We have tried. And the other thing which I did when I was there is walking in the street in the market is actually having fresh pomegranate juice crushed straight in front of you. I mean, I had it before, but having it in that weather, when it is hot and having it fresh, it's lovely. It's amazing experience. It's like, wow, it's so fresh and straight away. It's one thing which I'm like really want to do it. So every time I go now, I just walk in there and try to have a pomegranate.
What whiskey are you on just now yourself, Shilton? Was it
I've got both the glasses here, sherry and the pomegranate.
Nice.
Wine cart effects. So just trying and seeing the difference. The element sherry it's a lovely, easy sipping. It's a very easy sipper.
I'm looking forward to that one. We'll try that one together. Kat rushed on ahead with her sample before even giving me the chance to pour my.
You did ask what was in my glass, so I just told you what was in my glass.
Right, we'll maybe pour the sherry one together.
You know I'm going to always leave the sherry to the end.
Yeah. Dominic's just asking or he's mentioning on YouTube there, he remembers hearing Tal from M&H saying that in a blind tasting, the 3-year-old was thought to be 15 years old. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
We have the Dead Sea one especially, which is for 3 years old and 18 months at the Dead Sea. In that 3 years, it's kept so rich on the body. Last time I did in a blind tasting, not a blind tasting actually, it was a Zoom tasting, and the person who was organizing it messed up with it with the last 2 whiskeys and got the 6th whiskey as number 5. And the Dead Sea and the pomegranate. Now, out of these 2, the pomegranate you can figure out easily because it's very different than normal ex-bourbon style whiskey.
Right.
So one of the guys, he just nosed it and he said, "This reminds me of my Aaron 18 or, something like that, which is on the shelf." So, that kind of a body you get, full-bodied whiskey in just 3 years' time with that climate. Blind tasting I love doing blind tasting.
I'll have to do a side. I'm going to have an Aaron 18 here, so I'm going to have to do a side-by-side.
A compare and contrast.
Yeah.
Do you think blind tasting is a good way of getting around people's maybe hesitation to try world whiskies? Because there does seem to be, there's so much Scotch whiskey out there. People are kind of like, well, I've got so much Scotch to get through. I don't need to bother with world whiskey.
Blind tasting has always been the best way for world whiskies. I can say this. It's for Indian whiskies, Japanese whiskies. Blind tasting has been the best way of doing it. Even when brands like Amrut were launched 2003, 2004, I think so. Blind tasting was an eye opener. Just pour it around. What do you think about it? I'm like, okay, I think this is like this. When I used to work with Paul John, they used to say this is like a space cider. The brilliance is like, it reminds me of a space cider whiskey. So that's how you will put it across in a blind tasting, and it's an eye opener. And the moment if there is somebody sitting in there and gets it wrong, then that's it. You win the conversation straight away.
Was it Amrit that launched in Scotland around about that time with a blind tasting and kind of came out very favourably against some pretty quality Scotch whiskey? Did I read that right?
Yeah, it was in 2003 or 2004.
Yeah.
Something,
It's quite a young whiskey. But I remember when was it Fusion?
That was the first Indian whiskey, right? There was the first Indian whiskey they coming out from Indian whiskey. I mean, one of the things was they came out with the Indian whiskey is just because the main reason is because they were losing the whiskey in the cask.
Yeah.
Because it was just it was just because of the evaporation. They used to make the whiskey for the blend in India, but then they had it in the cask, and they're just losing every year. They used to lose. They lose something like us, about 11%, 12% a year. So instead of losing it, why don't we just release our own single malt whiskey? And that's how they came up in the picture in the industry. Makes sense. Yeah, I'd rather drink it. I'd rather drink it than just let the angels drink it.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So there's the kind of Amrit, and we've got Paul John, and there's a third Indian distillery, which the name escapes me just now.
Third? There are four, I think. So there is Amrit, Paul John, Rampur. There is Indri, which is very new. It's a lovely whiskey.
Okay.
Very new as well. There is Comet, which is another one. So these are the ones I know. And I think there are still more, but not out in the European markets yet.
Yeah. So we kind of regard these guys as playing by our rules, much as yourself, Milk and Honey in India, in Israel. But I mean, Indian whiskey itself is a whole different ballgame, isn't it? It's a whole industry in its own, molasses based. Right.
First of all, a lot of it is not actually technically whiskey, right? Like if we had to say it over here. But it is whiskey because there's no law in India to call it. The consumption of that per year, the consumption of whiskey in India is about 1.4 to 1.5 billion liters a year. Yes, it is a big country. I take that as well. It's about 1.5, 1.6 billion today, I think so. But still, that's how much the consumption is. But most of it is all the economy segment. Most of it is economy segment whiskies.
Because like Scotch is only like less than 2% of the Indian market. Scotch.
It's very less. I mean, most of the whiskey or spirit whiskey, I would say, which is exported to India from Scotland, about 80% of that is all gone in blends. So no one knows it's in one of those blends somewhere, but the remaining is bottled in India. Plus, it is not easy to import a brand into India as well, because at the moment it is 150% tax to import. So if you had to pay 1,050% tax to get into India, imagine how much the bottle will cost you there. On the retail shelf. That is one of and because of this, many brands like blended whiskies, they started shipping into India in bulk and then bottling it into India. Black and White and Red 69 are big brands in India, huge brands. You don't even see them here.
No,
I don't remember seeing it in one of the shelves here anywhere in Scotland. Or
not for a long time. No.
Yeah, I have not seen it in the last 80 years now that I have been here. So you don't see that in India. I mean, you see that a lot in India because if you send it in bulk, you're saving on the taxes. That's all. So that's what many brands do. So they can do it for blended whiskies, but send it in India, bottling it there. But sending it like bottle, single malt, importing it, you pay 150 tax.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the reasons that we are seeing a big hike in certain brands going up, because that's the market that their parent company is aiming for, isn't it? So they're looking at kind of offsetting that price or price matching it almost to make it feasible. But
every time someone says, when they have the colleagues in different brands working, and we're all friends, and say, Shilton, we wanted to get into the Indian market. So how do we get there? I said, why do you want to get there? Because it's the number, right? About 1 billion a year. Well, hold on a minute. Let me tell you something. So you have to explain why it is or how it is and what are the numbers for. And is it really worth getting into that market for that 2% of it? I know 2% of 1 billion will be a lot, but then you are struggling with people are also brand loyal. I worked for 5 years in Qatar in duty-free shop at the airport. When I was there, every day in the evening when the flights leave to India, I always tell the story. Whenever the flights go to India in the evening about 7 till 10, those 3 hours, when you have the shelf with the Johnny Walker black label, red label filled in, it just goes off like that. Right. And I used to work as a merchandiser, so we used to refill it every time. At some point, I learned a lesson. I said, you know what? I'm not going to fill it off. I just got the trolley in with the boxes in, and or just standing with the trolley and just giving it from the boxes. There's no point putting it on the shelf anyways, right? I'll do it at the end.
Brilliant. Yeah, save yourself some time. Yeah, you knew you were going to be in sales when you came up with that idea, didn't you? Like that. There's no point. What's the point?
I mean, in the daytime, you put up on the shelf, you clean it up, you keep it nicely, and then you see, like, that's a mess. 5 minutes ago, I just displayed the water. But that's how the blend work in India, the blends, and people are brand loyals. They
Yeah.
just been drinking it for ages. So it is changing now. It is changing now. But if I look at the change percentage of it, it will take some time.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest blends in India is teachers still. Is that right?
Yeah, that's also another one.
Yeah. Again, one you don't see in Scotland.
I know. It's funny though, because like as when I was younger, it was one of the ones you'd always see on the shelf. I used to work in a shop when I was a student in the village, and like all the sort of the farmers would come in on a Friday night and they'd be like, oh, teacher's Highland cream, I'll have a bottle. But now you don't ever see it. I mean, I work for the company that makes it, and I don't even have a bottle of it. It's like it's mental, but it just seems to go straight out.
It's also a lot to do. It's also a lot to do with the marketing and all, right? So there is Bagpiper as a brand, also very big in India. A lot of people who go to India will always come back with stories saying, "I've been drinking Bagpiper." There is a whiskey. There's a very famous whiskey called as Royal Stag.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very famous one, and I'm still trying to figure out what a stag has got to do in India.
Maybe a stag party gone awry.
Never seen one. Never seen one. So no clue.
Yeah.
So that's also a marketing thing that people do, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, globally, we teach the Whiskey Ambassador course at the shop, and I think I remember this right. 4 of the top 5 blends globally are Indian only market.
Yeah.
So you guys are in India. There's 4 of those brands, and you can only get them in India, and they're the top 4 in volume of consumption in the world. But Johnny Walker comes in at number 5.
There was a brand which was number 1, number 2, always in the top selling spirits, not only whiskey, top selling spirits, which you put Jack Daniels, Smirnoff, like vodka, everything in there. That is called as Officer's Choice, and I don't know what it is today, but 2 years, 3 years ago, that was number 1. That brand is to sell 35 million cases a year.
It's crazy numbers.
35 million cases a year, and those are 9-liter cases as well. Those are big cases, 9-liter cases as well. So that's a lot of whiskey sold in there.
Yeah, yeah. And that's UK Indian only, isn't it?
What's that?
Is that an Indian only market?
It's an Indian only market. Yeah, it's an Indian only market. I think there are some small markets that they export it to, like Africa and some Gulf countries.
But generally,
it's only in India.
Mind blowing. Bunch of alcoholics in India.
What's the sort of the way of drinking it? Like, is it just, do people just like have it neat? Do they have it as like a sort of with soda? Like, what is the way of drinking whiskey or in that amount of volume?
By your liter.
Seriously. I will let me see. I'll have something to show you. There is something called it's mostly with water, soda water, or even plain water, but it's a highball glass whiskey, and then top it up with water, drink it.
Yeah.
So some like the economy segment will not even use ice on it, but there are some which is whiskey on the rocks, mostly with ice in it. Or some mixer in it. There are 2 things. One is because it is too hot as a country, whiskey like that, and also because we have a sweet tooth, so we need something sweeter to drink it. I was trying to see. Okay, here you go.
So just while you're doing that, I'm going to say hello to David Muir, who's watching from the Mediterranean. Good evening, David. Nice.
No, he's watching from the Mediterranean temperatures in Campbellton.
Oh, my God. So you must be back from holiday. You're back from holiday, David.
I'm going to Campbellton next week, David, or 2 weeks. Oh, what's this?
Is that the Officer's Choice?
This is whiskey. This is whiskey.
Okay.
That's a Tetra Pak. It's a whiskey in there. It's 90 ml. There's a 2. This is 180 ml. And there is a 90 ml as well that you get in this package. It's about 50p or less than a pound for the price of for 180 ml whiskey. And it just comes like this in a juice box. The only sad part is that it doesn't come with a straw.
Little Capri Sun, just pop it in. Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Oh, wow.
Good evening, Paul Dempsey, who's watching on Facebook. How are you, Paul? Nice to have you on.
Hello, Paul.
So what's your next festival? What have you got lined up this summer?
Next one. Oh, wow. I don't even know.
Oh, you're in holiday mode. You don't have to think about work. So.
No, exactly. I'm like, I'll come back and think about it. Nothing much happening in, I think I'll be in Whiskey Fringe. Edinburgh.
Nice.
That's up next month.
Yeah. Oh, that'll be good.
So you've got a favourite festival that you like to go to?
Well, they're all the same for me because I'm working.
Well, that's true.
I'm working. I'm doing the same job. If I was not working as a punter, I would like to. My favorite festival will be to go to the Whiskey Fair in Germany, in Limburg in Germany. That is something which I would love to go for if I'm not working.
A lot of people mention this one. Whenever I ask this question to ambassadors and things, this seems to be the one that's mentioned quite a lot. We'll have to.
Yeah, that's one of the festivals that you can really find something that you never heard of, or you could never buy it, or you could never get a bottle, or never seen it or heard of it. So that is one place to really go and explore the range, the shelf.
Okay. Paul Dempsey's put on
giving away secrets.
You know me too well. This is a time when I was like, okay, goodbye everyone. It was nice.
Just stay very still and pretend your screen's frozen. That's what I do when I run out of questions. Just
or sometimes I even do that.
You got it sussed.
Love it. Yeah, there's no hiding place, Shilton. We've got quite a few brand ambassadors and people in the industry watch, so be careful of what stories you tell. I'm sure Paul doesn't mind if you've got any of his skeletons in the closet you can tell us about.
I've got so many stories of Paul, but I will not say this. I promised Paul not to tell it to anyone.
When we're finished, when we stop recording, stick around. You can maybe tell us that.
Yeah, we're good at keeping secrets.
Paul's asking if you can share pictures here.
Is it after 8 o'clock? You have to wait till after the watershed, maybe, then we can get some pictures.
Paul, WhatsApp me, Paul. WhatsApp.
Yeah. Oh dear, I think we're going down a dark path on this one. I even think the watershed is late enough for that. I'm
going to take you up on that offer, David, as well, actually.
Yeah, Callum's saying hello. He's loving the fact that you're getting down to Campbelltown.
Yeah.
David says, just mention my name in any establishment and you will be fined. Oh, fine.
I don't know.
Sorry. Yeah.
Fine. I don't know if that means that I'll get a free drink or I'll be paying for an unpaid tab. I'm not sure.
Dave's got tabs all over the place. He's just hoping you'll pay for it, I'm sure.
Well, I'm excited to go over. I used to live over west and I never did Campbellton, but you never do when it's on your doorstep. So
have you never been down there?
Not properly, no. Kind of been through, but never really stopped and spent time there. So yeah.
Through on your way to where? Where can you go after Campbelltown?
Do you know what? Like the West, the world's your oyster, or the world your lobster, as my old boss's nephew used to say. But yeah, no, it'd be nice to go over. Mediterranean of Scotland.
Yeah, I mean it's beautiful. The road down is absolutely stunning. The sea's blue, and it's Mediterranean kind of looking. Maybe sometimes doesn't feel it, but it looks it.
So Tal, who's my colleague, every time he comes around or do a tasting session, he tells a story which is true. So we have Israel as a country has got 5 different climate zones, right? So Tel Aviv, the Jerusalem mountains, which is 900 above sea level, can be colder, snowing as well sometimes. You drive for an hour or two, you are in the desert, the Sea of Galilee, and the Dead Sea. So we mature whiskey in all these locations now just to see what's going to happen. Okay. And every time Tal mentions this, he feels so nice, and we have got 5 different climate zones. And I tell him, Tal, I live in Clydebank. If I'm lucky, I can get all 5 in one day. So you can't be selling me that. I don't even have to go anywhere. Just stand outside. I could get all 5 climate zones in one day.
Yeah. It's that old saying: if you don't like the weather in Scotland, stick around for 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and we've had it all today as well. Apart from snow. Snow is the only thing we haven't had today.
Yeah, I know. If today's rain is tomorrow's whiskey, then we're all going to be mass produced by the end of the month. It is a lot of rain.
But we need it. We need it.
We do.
I've just poured the sherry cask. I don't know if you've poured your one, guys.
It is poured. I just haven't tried it yet.
So this was World Whisky
ABV as well. This is at 46% ABV, so it's the core range one. It's not all sherry cask. This is about 50% of the whiskey in there is ex-bourbon and STR. So we keep the base recipe as the ex-bourbon STR in the core range. Okay. And then the remaining 50% is matured in sherry cask. So that's why it's not a big sherry bomb. More easy, softer sherry cask.
So matured separate and vatted rather than finished.
Yeah.
I think this is the quietest the Blether's ever been.
I know. I'm pleasantly surprised. When I read sherry on it, I thought, oh, here we go. But yeah, not the sort of big sherry bomb that I was expecting.
I'm trying to be more quieter because Paul Dempsey is here now.
I've got the fear now.
I mean, I've heard a lot of stories about you, Shilton, and I don't imagine you as being the shy type.
For me, personally, I'm not a big sherry bomb fan. For me, a finish or something like this is fine. Or even a finish like 10 years old, maybe 8 years and 2 years finish in sherry, that works for me. I enjoy those kind of whiskeys.
Yeah, I think I'm probably similar. This is really well balanced. You get that it definitely has that sherry note in it, but
it's not very overpowering as well. This is. For us, it is not. For us, it wasn't easy because remember that we are kosher certified whiskies as well. That is something that we have. We did that as added value, and to maintain the certification, we have to maintain the certification. We have to be careful on where we get the cask from. We cannot buy the sherry cask from any cookery. For us, to get it, because it is more challenging because there's no kosher sherry in the world. So to make this whiskey, we had to actually make our own sherry first, season the cask, and then send the cask and get rid of the sherry.
Oh, wow. Gosh. Yeah, so even harder if you guys get sherry cask.
That is the sad truth of the industry today because there's more demand for the sherry cask than at the actual sherry wine.
Yeah.
There's no market for kosher sherry then.
There's no market for sherry.
Yeah. We had a chap in the shop yesterday, I think, just when we're closing up, and he was actually over at your other work, Kat, looking for kosher.
I know who you're speaking about, actually. I took them out on tour.
He, I think he's a member of the Aquavite Club. I can't remember his name. He messaged me to say he'd be in the area. Unfortunately, I wasn't around yesterday to see him.
Was it Ben?
Sorry?
Was it Ben?
Ben wasn't the name that he goes by online. I know that sounds like a David Muir thing to say, but it's
was it Ben? I'll just name all the names.
Yeah, but yeah. So do we see a bigger demand for this now as whiskey becomes more universal? That kosher whiskey is something that.
Yeah, I mean, for us, the sherry makes more sense because there is no sherry cask matured. There are not many sherry cask matured whiskies, and to get there's no sherry cask. I think we are the only one who do a sherry cask matured whiskey, kosher certified as well. For us, it is also after winning the award for this one, which is this year. This is like sold out, so we had to. Tal and Tomer had to get back to Spain to secure some more cask for the future. Make a new batch. We made our biggest batches as well this year. If you ask me today if we have any other distillery, we don't. But because the moment we make it, we just sell it off. It's gone. it doesn't even remain on the shelf. It's one of the best sellers at the moment, being at go range at 55 or something like that, 50, 55 for the price range. That works very well.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. It's much fruitier than I expected from a sherry bomb. I guess that's come from the SDR. It's a little bit like the fruit salad sweets for me on the nose. But there is a kind of wispy leatheriness of it, maybe a tobacco kind of note to it. Maybe not smoky, but the tobacco leaf, like a cigar leaf or something like that.
I like how it is more softer on the palate compared to that. Is probably one of the reasons I would say this is my kind of sherry, or this is as much I can take as a sherry. Sherry cask influence on a dram. For me, that works perfectly. More softer, more gentle, but it's also at the same time more fruity. So we get some dark chocolatey notes as well coming from the sherry.
Yeah, and is the sherry casks you're making, is it Oloroso style sherry, or is it?
For this, we have Oloroso and PX.
Both.
It's a mix of both. Yeah, Oloroso and PX.
I think Paul made a comment about, I think that more distilleries should have a beer tap in reception. I feel like this needs more information.
So we have a tap at the distillery, right? This is I've never seen it anywhere as well. So the moment you go in, you walk in, and as a welcome, the guys will say, "Hey," and it's a lager. It's something refreshing, I would say. Okay. So it's on tap. So you'll get a beer as a welcome, and then you just walk around in the distillery with the beer in your hand. So every time I go, and it is more about not for everyone. It's not more for everybody, but it is more for us, for the staff who work at the distillery. So you're just walking. Like, for example, I'm in the office sometime doing something when I get there, and I go in the production side and just wanted to talk to someone, and the guys are just walking with the beer in the hand. So, okay, Shilton, what, guys? That's what Paul has been there. Paul was there recently, so that's what was his experience with the beer.
Yeah. He said it's the only distillery he visited twice in 2 days. Just kept going back for a beer.
It's only for he was there for the beer only, I think so. Mark Watt is another person who talks about it a lot because he was there a few years ago. It's like, this is the only distillery where somebody actually welcomed me with a beer.
And why not? Why not? People are obviously going there to try some alcohol, so why not a nice refreshing beer? You know, if we did that in Scotland, tenants would milk that, and you'd be getting that.
We would never get rid of some folk if there was beer on tap.
Yeah, especially if it's free. Here's a free half pint. Yeah.
The biggest challenge is you might get more people in the visitor center only for the beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's the kind of people we are. Free beer, hell yeah! Let's get in there. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like an amazing distillery. We'll have to go out and have a look.
Yeah.
So do you think you started the trend? Will there be more distilleries being built in Israel?
There are about 3 more distilleries around in Israel, but they don't export. They are small ones. But I mean, that's how it works basically, because somebody has to start it first, and then people follow. Yeah. So I can see them coming out. I can see those distilleries exporting it at some point, or growing, or becoming big. They are in Israel itself, and for us it actually worked out this year very well, because after winning the award, we sold a lot back home, back in the local market. It worked really well for example, that week itself when we won the award in the first week of April, we sold 7,000 bottles in the local market in 1 week. So that was a lot. So it actually helps getting an international recognition for the local market. Mm-hmm. So, and that also helps to grow the category of the whiskey itself. Again, just similar to something like a place like India, it is not a big whiskey drinker because it is too hot. It will be more highballs, cocktails, and people. It's a great city, but more nightlife. So if you look at a nightlife place, you will drink more in the cocktail or highballs because it's too hot. And if you're looking at cocktail and highballs, the one thing comes in your mind is a blended whiskey, or not a single malt, to use it in a cocktail for a bartender. So, but for single malt drinkers, this actually helped us a lot. So once we grow as well as a category itself will grow at some point as well.
Yeah, I guess does Israel or Tel Aviv have that kind of? Certainly in Aberdeenshire, we have this kind of play ourselves down, saying it's not as good as it is somewhere else in Scotland, or so we don't really champion ourselves a bit. And I suppose perhaps that was the same with kind of Israel, where they're like, what are we doing making whiskey? Why would I drink Israel whiskey when I can get Scotch or something? And then all of a sudden you're making the best whiskey in the world, and they're like, well, hold on, I'll give this a shot. We must be doing something right.
They do it, and it is not only for Israel, it's everywhere. I used to face this a lot when I was working with the Indian market, in the Indian whiskey around, not only in India, because it's like, okay, with the same price I can get a Scotch whiskey, why will I buy my local?
Yeah.
This is local. And I have heard people saying, Shilton, I love this whiskey, but actually I cannot buy it. And I said, why? What's wrong? Because if I buy it and if I open it for any occasion at home, my guests will say, you're giving me something local and not an imported Scotch whiskey. So you always get those kind of people. Mm-hmm. So even now, recently, I was doing a tasting for a group of people from Israel, somewhere in Belgium. It's like they're not into whiskey, but it was a tasting that they asked me to do. And I was doing it, and they are not whiskey people for sure. I can tell you that. And as they were drinking the whiskey and I was talking about it, at some point, one of the guys said, my Scotch whiskey I drink at home is better than this. And I just looked at him. I'm like, dude, I'm not even from Israel. I'm supporting the brand. You should be supporting it more. Their own brand. I'm supporting you.
Some kind of anti-advertising, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm like, you should be shouting and I should be the other. Like, I'm not even from your country, but I'm talking about you. It was a joke. Everybody started laughing.
It's that thing though, like something different, something new. It's not until like you kind of win an award sometimes that people start taking it seriously or start noticing it, which is a shame. But it is that fear of the unknown. People are so used to Scotch whiskey, the big brands, the big names. They're sometimes scared to move out of their comfort zone.
Also, Kat, I will have to mention this. It is not because people will say, I want to drink a Scotch whiskey. It is a problem that they are brand loyal.
Okay.
This has been going on for ages. It is if you give them a Scotch whiskey today, which is new, they will still not drink it. There are people I'm sure you guys, you've seen that customers coming in the shop and see that as well.
Yeah.
They say like, this is something, it's a blended whiskey as well, or a blended malt. And they're like, nah, I'm going to drink mine. So like, seriously, try it. Give it a try. And like, I can pick up whiskeys, which are so good, blended, even cheaper, to be honest, price-wise, compared to something which is a blended whiskey and expensive. But it is that is in my terms, I always say there is a difference between a whiskey drinking and a label drinking. So people drink a label and they don't drink a whiskey.
Yeah, that's a very good way of describing it. Actually, I think we do see that with certain brands.
Yeah. We see that a lot with, and probably more so with the distillery bottle against the indie bottle. A lot of our customer base are buying for somebody else, buying for granddad or mum or whatever, and they come in and saying, "Oh, they drink Highland Park, for example," and but we want something a little bit different. Oh, great! Here's an Orkney distillery, bottled by Berry Brothers. Oh well, no, but he likes Highland Park. Well, it is Highland Park in all but name, but it's from that distillery. No, I think I'll just buy a Highland Park. And it's that, going away from what they know, and even though it's from the same distillery and it'll have that same characteristic, it's like it's a big step out of the comfort zone. It's their fear that handing that bottle over, somebody will be like, what's this? It's getting that message across. It's very similar to getting somebody off a brand to get somebody to try an indie bottle, and Paul will probably know about that with his venture into the Brave New Spirits, who are doing some really wild labels and really funky stuff. It's you need to get liquid on lips to get people to commit to that and try that. And if you can't even get that going, they're just so adamant that they're not even going to try it.
Even the ones which are easily available from distilleries, one of the common ones you'll see a lot is, for example, Kalila. And if you look at the Kalila, a lot of indie bottlers have it as well.
Yeah.
If you talking to someone who's been drinking that as a label drinker, again going back to that term, and you ask them to tell them about this, they're like, no, I want to buy that. Like, I want to buy a distillery label. I'm like, dude, it's a single cask. You need to understand this. This is they bought the cask from them and they bottled it. Sometimes I think, I should try saying, this is the original Kalila, and then this came out. Just change it the other way around.
Yeah. I wonder what would happen if we took an independent bottle and single cask Kalila and put it inside the Diageo 12-year-old box and just said, here we go, try that.
For me, I'm a big fan of indie bottlers. Whoever I come across, I keep trying that. And because there's something, every time you have, when you have a brand, if you look at the label, this is us. Like, we are restricted to this, right? That is what we have to do every time. But when you have an indie bottler and the other cask, it's not easy. It's not something that it is a whiskey, a cask that has been selected by us and them together, saying like, okay, these are the 5 casks we think are the best, and out of the 5, the indie bottler will say, I will pick this one. So it is not some random cask. So they actually help a brand. Any indie bottler, actually, I think they actually help a brand to reaching out places where the brand cannot go, to get the word out, brand awareness part of it. I recently met someone at one of the festivals. This is a funny story. And he came to me and he said about some indie bottler, okay? And he said, do you know how they do the bottling? I said, yeah, I know, but I would like to listen from you as well. Said, whenever a distillery doesn't want any cask, they sell it to them and they bottle it out. I'm like, dude, it doesn't work like that. And he was so much into it. No, I'm telling you, that is how it works. I'm like, do you work in the industry? No. I'm like, okay, I'll take it. Thank you so much. That's new information for me.
Yeah.
You give it 2 and 3 times to try, and then you say, nah, I'll give it up.
Yeah. You try and convince them, but some people have it in their head and they'll have heard it secondhand and just determine that that's what it is, isn't it? It's such a funny kind of story to tell people about independent bottlers and getting them committed to it and saying, this is what an independent bottler is. They're not getting the scraps of the dregs that's otherwise going to be thrown down the sink if you don't buy it. It's ready-made spirit that's just, maybe doesn't fit the core range profile of a distillery or something like that. So it's available.
The consumers that you get, Mike, in the market today I'm talking about consumers who walk in the store, right? There are so many people who really want to learn more about the whiskey. And it all actually makes it exciting. I'm sure you face the same thing in the shop. It's the same thing for me talking about the brand as well. And someone comes and, can you tell me more? And you tell the fun facts and talk about the everything behind the brand and the story. And they are, okay, that is new, and they really want to understand more. Some people walk in, they just don't want to learn. They have decided this is what I know and this is how it is.
Yeah.
That was a very funny incident. I was, after joining Milk and Honey, was doing a show in the UK itself. And at the whiskey festival, someone came to me and said, why is it called as Milk and Honey? And I said to him, it is called as Milk and Honey because, well, we call it as MNH now, and it stands for Milk and Honey. Milk and Honey is because Israel is called as the land of milk and honey, and that's why the name. But he said, well, should I be expecting milk and honey notes on this? I said, no, that's not how it works. It's named after milk and honey. And he said to me, and this is going on at the show, remember, imagine, how people are at the show. And he just went on saying, but you should not promote it as milk and honey if it does not taste like milk and honey. Listen, I'm doing this because this is named after the land, not land of milk and honey. There's a story behind the name. And he just went on and on at least 5 times saying, but it is very wrong, Shilton. You should not promote it as milk and honey if it does not. I said, okay, you have asked me you have asked me the same question 5 different times and I've answered it. Can I ask you one? And he said, yeah, go on. I said, have you tried a brand called as Monkey Shoulder? Pig's Nose? I can go all night. I can go on all night.
Sheep Dip, yeah.
He's like, okay, I got it. And he just walked away from the stand. I'm like, God.
Gee. Yeah, the first time we took in Nika coffee malt. It's the same idea. Oh, is there coffee in it? Is it no? But you know, I kind of when we talk to guys, you know, they say a lot of people are in the shop buying for somebody else. They're not necessarily the whiskey drinker. They're buying for the whiskey drinker. So we kind of sympathize with them, and maybe they're not the one who needs to know. But what we like to do is give them a wee story about the bottle or the distillery, so that when they go and present it to whoever it is that's getting it, oh well, this is why I bought this, because it's maybe a bit personal to them, maybe a distilled year or a location or something. So we do try and give them a little bit of, even if it's something very simple, go away and it just helps them present that gift as a little, with a bit of confidence, I suppose, rather than, oh, I like the label of this bottle, so I picked it.
I think it's sometimes it's lack of education. The one I get all the time at the distillery is, can you show me a bottle of whiskey that was, my baby was born or my grandson was born like last Tuesday? Can I get a bottle of whiskey that was distilled on that day? I'm like, well, maybe if you come back in 10 to 12 years. Potentially. But it's like that idea of like we're just churning out whiskey and pouring it straight into bottles and it's just going on a shelf. It's just, I think there's still quite a lack of, especially Scottish people. I think it's because we've grown up with it. Like we just
we're the worst.
We are
absolutely the worst as a nation.
There, so we don't really feel like we need to know much about it. It's just there. But I had a group of guys the other day, and one of them was very expertly telling his friends while I was stood at the kiln pointing out about peat and how he used to peat the barley. He's like, well, yeah, but it mainly comes from the water, doesn't it? I was telling my mates here, it all just comes out of the water because Scotland's got very, very peated water. And I was like, okay, let's go back 5 minutes ago when I started telling you about the kiln and the peat and what we're doing here. But it's just the same. I think it's just the same thing, the kind of same misinformation is just kind of spread from one person to the next.
I hope that wasn't my group that I dropped off.
You always I mean, I was doing a show one day and I was talking about saying this is a peated whiskey and I poured it to someone, and the guy who was tried him, like he said to me, I'm not a big fan of peated whiskey, but my friend is. So he ran and he got his friend to my stand and he said, try this, you will love it. He just took the glass and he smelled and said, but I don't smell the frog in it. I'm like, dude, are you for real? Is that the only thing you know?
The only peated whiskey in Scotland.
Paul just mentioned something very, very nice over there, which says non-chili filtered whiskey. I used to get that a lot when I used to work with the Indian whiskey. They look at me, they look at the Indian whiskey and they say, is it a non-chili whiskey? I'm like, no.
Oh, I've not heard that one, but that's brilliant. I can imagine everyone in India just pours their whiskey through this filter of chilies.
Filter of chili. That's where you get that lovely sort of white pepper sort of spice on the palate. It's the chili filter that it goes through.
That's like somebody asking the guys at tomato in which part, where do you add the tomatoes in the process? I've heard that one. I've heard that story coming from the distillery.
Where do you add the tomatoes?
There's a group at the distillery, and they were doing a tour, and they said, "Hey, it's a lovely tour. I love how you make the whiskeys, but I'm still trying to figure out which part of this process do you add the tomatoes." Tomatin.
Tomatoes in.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Oh my gosh.
I love this. I love this because it makes our job exciting. Otherwise, it's boring. Huh?
It makes it fun. Absolutely. Yeah.
I was in Denmark recently, and someone came to me, and I had a big signage saying single malt whiskey, right, on an A4 size paper as well on my table. And the guy just read it and said, "Is that whiskey from Malta?" Malt, M-A-L-T. I'm like, well, dude, there's A missing there. There's one alphabet missing. It has to be malt.
Oh man. It's I just seen Dominic's comment on YouTube on the subject of names. I quite fancy trying the Gold Cock whiskey.
The whiskey just came out of my nose.
I timed that one right, Claire. Yeah.
I haven't heard that one. Well, there we go. I wonder how they make that one.
Or what it tastes like.
Well, we'll leave it up to Dominic to find out for us. He can be our roving reporter there.
Shilton, you started off your kind of drinks sales career at Duty Free Qatar, is that right? And then you went on to Paul John. Yeah. So what was that? Did that just start off as a job, or was it something that you aimed to get into to progress? Is whiskey, were you a whiskey drinker before you got that job, or?
Well, whiskey drinker, yes, of course, for a long time. Well, I come from Goa. Goa is called as the party capital of India, right? So, so that was there. But for me to get into it is mainly, I would say, if I had to put it in one word, it's curiosity. Because when I used to work in Doha, Qatar, we used to sell a lot of whiskeys in the shop, as I told you how. But and there's also the expensive stuffs as well. But one thing you cannot do over there is you actually cannot try the whiskey. You're not allowed to drink.
Okay.
So you do not know what it tastes like, or how it is made. There was no brand education. There was no education done. So you were like a proper typical salesperson just selling whiskeys. That's it. This is the price. You buy 2 of these, you get this free. That was a job, and I did that for 5 years. But during that time, I've been curious about, okay, how is whiskey made? What is it? Why is it expensive? What is the difference in it? Some of the whiskeys which we were selling at that time, if I look at it, I was like, damn, I should have bought a few bottles of that at that time. Because if you look at the price now of what was selling at that time,
Yeah.
So that is how I got into it, curiosity. But then I moved back 2012 into India and joined Distilleries, which is called Paul John. Worked in the Goa local market for 2 years, I think so. And 2015 is when I moved to the UK, continuing with Paul John itself, and till 2020 when I joined you.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's good. And no regrets at all, then.
No. I mean, the only thing is that I love, that is the best thing is, as I said, as we were talking about before, is something it is all depends on yourself of really, do you want to know or do you want to learn more? It's like, that's what I say to people, even in the tasting as well. When you ask, if you want to ask something, you should be the one asking. If you have something in mind, ask. Because unless you ask, you will never know. Don't feel anything. It's not funny. I mean, it could be funny, but it's okay. It's a joke, and you can always laugh about it. But there is answer for everything. There's some very stupid questions I come up as well, even today, saying what will happen if you do that over there, But that's imagination. That's curiosity. So that's how you learn.
The thing is, most. Sorry,
I was going to say, I think it's one of those industries where you are always learning, even if it's just from like the people on the chat. Like some of our viewers will come away with brands or like facts that I had no idea. So you are always learning.
Yeah. I think every silly idea has, or if you've asked a silly question, like you said, you just asked something that, what happens if you do that? And somebody said, well, that's stupid, but somebody's obviously tried that to find out how stupid that was. So somebody else had that idea earlier than you did, and found out that that's a bad idea. Don't do that, because either someone will die or something will get blown up or something bad will happen. But somebody's obviously tried that to figure that out.
Even if at some point someone must have said, do you want to make a whiskey in Israel? And they will say, oh, that's stupid. It's not going to happen. Well, there you go. We have the whiskey today. They say, do you want to make sure a cask can, use the pomegranate wine cask? I'm like, they will say, oh, that wine is not so great. I don't think the cask will work. That's stupid. Here you go. Today we have a whiskey in glasses, drinking from the pomegranate wine cask.
Really, really nice.
It's never a stupid thing. You always try and test and see.
And I guess you can look back, especially on that pomegranate. I was going to bring this up when we're talking about the wine there, is that a lot of the sherry that we use the casks of, as this season is never going to be used as drinking sherry. It's vinegar or down sweet kind of thing. So the quality of that being in there doesn't really make a difference to the flavor that the wood's going to give you. So
It's that's why it's only seasoned for 1 year
Yeah.
or 18 months or something, just to get the wood, to get the flavors. But then again, it is the wood will give you the flavors, of course, but it also depends on the spirit as well, of a spirit character. That the combination of the two that's what you will get in the dram. So it's not only depending on that particular thing itself, on the flavor, but then it's like, okay, let's try it and see, let's see what's going to happen, and just make sure the cask in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of whiskey maturation was just happy accident, wasn't it? The whole sherry maturation in Scotland was just kind of like a kind of happy accident of just, savvy Scots just like, oh, there's a big empty barrel, let's shove a whiskey in there. Bam.
And it's sweet.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so yeah, it's good to experiment, especially now with, again, going back to independent bottlers, all the different finishes and things we're getting. It's a lot of fun for new whiskey drinkers.
There is nothing that you cannot do. Just try it out and see. It can be good or bad, or you learn something from it. Isn't there whiskey which has been smoked by cow dung or sheep dung today? Yes. So they do that as well. So, I don't know. I don't remember how it tastes like last time I tried, but yeah.
I think Dominic says there is one bad idea. Fishki Bruichladdich finished in ex-herring casks. Is that real? Did they do that?
But there is. But see, the thing is, there is somebody who will definitely like it. Yeah. There is someone who will love it.
Yeah.
Tequila cask is an example. Tequila cask is a very classic example. A lot of people do not like it, but there are people who love it. I love it. The one at least we did, and I've tried a few. I've tried. It's fantastic. We also have an orange wine cask, like a proper orange wine cask. Well, so someone must have said that's stupid. You should not use it. But then the people love it. So I'm sure some people like it. All depends on each palate. So some people love that style of it. I love peated whiskey, so I'll prefer that. Play around with it of different whiskeys.
Certainly, yeah. There are no. I mean, this started off as a chat about silly questions. There are no silly questions, no silly ideas. Because as I said, somebody's tried it, and we wouldn't have the industry we have now if somebody right back in the day said you can't boil that. That'll taste awful. Okay, we won't do it then.
Yeah.
No one's the rest of their life.
It's funny because the whiskey is something that you learn something every day.
Mm-hmm.
There's no stopping. I do it a lot of time when I do a tasting and say, is there anybody in this room who's got a whiskey knowledge which is 5 out of 10? And you'll see someone saying, oh, I have 5 out of 10. And it's like, is there anyone in this room who's got 10 out of 10? You don't see many, but you say, if you are 10 out of 10, then you might as well do the tasting because I'll go and sit down there.
Yeah.
There's no 10 out of 10. You learn something every day. It's a new thing every day that's in the industry.
Yeah. And anytime you think you might be getting near kind of 7.5, something else happens. It is right. That's me back down to 6.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It keeps things interesting, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Like every time somebody tries, even we in our range itself, you're talking about Dead Sea. I mean, like 25% angel share. That is new to a lot of people. Pomegranate wine cask, very new to people as well. So that is something whenever they try, oh, I never thought of this or never heard of this. So there's a new thing every day you learn.
Yeah. We've got a question from Paul on Facebook. What's the biblical wine casks at M&H?
What's the biblical wine cask, Paul?
What's the biblical wine casks at M&H? Oh.
Definitely not the one Paul has because that's empty now after I visited. But that sounded very biblical there. It's empty now.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a biblical moment that he had drinking it, maybe.
I made it disappear.
Yeah.
Toner mentioned a cask that was a wine from biblical time.
I know what you're talking about. I know Toner mentioning about that. Yes. Well, the thing is, the wine making itself in Israel is from the biblical times. So you still find that's when it started, or the history behind it. There are about 300 active wineries today in Israel on paper. I always say on paper. 300 active wineries in Israel. So there are so many different wine types. The one which we use in our core range is from Carignan, mainly, and then some Cabernet Sauvignon. We do a fortified red wine cask. So there are so many wines that you get in Israel itself. I know what Paul is mentioning about. There are some oldest, I don't know what it is called, but it's some oldest wines that you could get from biblical times still being made.
Okay.
That sounds good.
I poured myself one of the whiskeys, which I think one of my best favorite whiskeys of the year. This year I found.
That's
Oh, nice. The is that the white port? Is that the
white port one? Wow. I'm on my second bottle.
Is that the one they did with Becky Paskin? Is that it? Is that the one?
No, is that the one?
I think
No,
that was
that's
her cask choice, wasn't it?
That's not the one. Oh yeah,
No.
that's the one. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a lovely whiskey. I tried it. I tried it on my way back from Campbelltown, actually, not in Campbelltown, and I bought a bottle over there the first. But it's nice, funky notes. Lovely whiskey.
Nice.
We'll have to
I
see if
haven't
I can
tried
pick
that
myself
one.
up.
I am a big fan of Glen Scotia as well. It's I'm glad to see it's now getting the recognition out of the shadow of Springbank, and it's really starting to get showcased around the world. It's beautiful.
I think
Beautiful
they
place.
did really well at the Campbellton Whisky Festival, didn't they? I think it was really successful with what they were doing over there.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the favorites. I might still have a bottle somewhere or two of their festival release of 2018. I think it is the Ruby Port that they've done.
Yeah.
2018, I think it was.
Nice.
I think by now I must have bought at least 6 bottles of that, all gone. Now, the last one, I'm like keeping it aside. I'm not touching it.
Yeah. We'll see. Just don't invite Paul round, and that bottle will stay closed.
Every time Paul asks me, I just give him the wrong postcode.
He'll run out of doors in Cloudbank, yeah.
It's like, Shilton, I want to send you a sample. So I'm like, don't worry, Paul, I can come and collect it. But no, it's okay. Don't want to send it.
Yeah, I'm going to pour a wee Aaron 18, seeing as we mentioned it earlier on. That's a lovely. I'm a big fan of what Aaron are doing. I haven't tried any of the new Lag Distillery Spirit yet. I don't know if have you tried any of their stuff.
The log?
Yeah.
The new one? Yeah. I tried it before. I mean, when I tried the new make as well when it was coming out. Lovely spirit. Spirit. In the first release that they done. I still have some of the new make somewhere here.
Yeah, Aaron it's a brilliant one. Paul's just worried about the angel share on our casks after your last visit. Yeah, I heard that's up to about 25% of the angel share after the visit from you, Shilton.
No, in Tel Aviv we have 11%, but this year in Tel Aviv it's 25%.
It's a bad year for it.
Normally is 25, but this year I think Tel Aviv will be 25 itself because I've been there once and I'll be going there again in September, Paul, just to let you know.
Yeah. Paul was there twice as well.
I think it's more of the devil share going on there as opposed to the angel share by the things.
Shilton, I'm going to have to ask you a favor. So I've been meaning to bring this up with our last kind of 4 guests, but I always forget. We ran a competition for Father's Day.
I was going to ask you if you'd ever drawn that winners the other day.
And it was going to be drawn, and I was going to ask John Campbell, who was our guest on the Father's Day weekend, to pick the best dad joke. So we had a lot of guests, a lot of entries sent in. So I'm going to read some dad jokes out to you, and you have to pick your favorite one, okay?
Okay.
So
See which one gets the biggest chuckle.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said to pick one. I'm glad you didn't tell me to say one because
No, I'm not going to ask you to tell one unless you want to. If you want to kick us off with a dad joke.
No, I'll stick with the.
Okay, so this is the first one. I only seem to get sick on weekdays. I must have a weekend immune system. Weekend immune system. It's maybe the way I'm telling them.
It's the way you tell them, Mike.
Yeah. I found a wooden shoe in my toilet today. It was clogged. I don't trust stairs. They're always up to something.
Okay.
What cheese is best for enticing a bear to leave his cave? Come on, bear. How do you identify a Spanish fishing trawler? By the way they cast the nets.
Who sent you this?
So we had a competition on Instagram. And
Oh,
people
okay.
sent the
It's
story.
coming from Instagram. Okay.
Yeah. What cheese do you use to disguise a small horse? Mascarpone. I used to hate facial hair, but then it grew on me.
We saw that coming. We saw that one coming.
I tell dad jokes, but have no kids. I'm a faux pas. So, what else have we got? 6:30 is my favorite time of day, hands down.
It's educational and funny.
Yeah. Who can drink 5 liters of petrol and not die? Jerry can. Okay, so that was my favorites, but I want you to pick one to win.
I've got a tie between the second and the third.
Was that the clog one?
The clog toilet
And the
and the
stairs
stairs
one.
being up to something.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will go with the stairs if I had to pick one.
The stairs. Okay, so that is Whiskey Chuchter.
Nice.
So you have
Congratulations.
one. So he's either got a tasting for 2 or a bottle of our shop exclusive. We will let him know that he has won. Oh, Paul says clogs for the win. Clogs were second place.
It was. I think that was my favorite one.
All right, but it does. In all honesty, Whiskey Chuchter sent both those in, so he would have
Oh, there
won.
you go.
Okay. Well,
So
You
there
made
is
one.
a tasting for 2?
a tasting for 2 or our shop exclusive. We have a Money McDavid or Thrusk on at the moment from the shop, so they get to choose one or the other.
So I'm the plus one for the tasting.
I'll tell them. I say, good thing is you've won a tasting for 2. The downside is you have to invite Shilton. So.
You've got a date. They were actually quite a good standard for dad jokes, to be honest. They were really good.
I love them. As Paul says, he plans to use them all, and I will definitely be using them as well.
Yeah.
And I have done on several occasions already. I mean, I think Father's Day was a month ago. I keep forgetting to bring it up, and I wanted someone neutral to do it. So I thought, while I remember, we'll nail you down for that. So thank you very much, Shilton, for picking that. Dominic has just sent me a message. If you remind me, I'll drop you a sample. Oh, cool. Sample of the live Distillery exclusive.
I haven't tried it either, Dominic. So we've actually got Mariella from Lag coming on later on in the year.
Nice.
So yeah, probably be good if I tried the whiskey by then too, Dominic. Just saying.
When is she coming on? Now, soon? Next?
Sorry?
Mariella, when is she coming over? Or coming for the session?
Into August, so towards the end of August. Yeah. We'll get her on for a wee chat. All things Lag and Aaron. It'd be good to have her.
Yeah. I guess now would be a good time to tell the guys at home who are watching. This will be our last Blether for a few weeks. We're going to take a wee break through August, the end of July. Holidays, kids at home and things. It's proven a little bit more difficult to get guests on, but also Kat has 3 kids as well, so we want to give her a wee break. I've got no excuse really.
You're having the kids for the summer. Excellent.
Is that what that said? Oh, right. Not sure if that was part of the deal. I've got my own wee one to look after. So, But
I think
we'll be back. I think the last week of August we're kind of aiming for, if not the second last week of August.
Yeah.
So
So Mariella's going to be our first guest back in. So we're going to be straight back into all things Lag and Aaron. So it's going to be a good re-entry back in.
You're not taking the break because I was on the show, right? No.
Well, we're ending on a high. Like we can't top that really.
Like, okay, we had too much of him. I mean, we want to take a break, like 3 weeks break. I've heard that before. Trust me, ask Paul. He'll tell you about it.
We're going to do a special episode of Paul's Stories of Shilton. We've got that lined up.
Oh, no.
Just as we're mentioning the ending on a high there, Dominic's asked if we can comment on the effect of the tax hike next month, the duty increase.
I'm going to report it on Facebook.
Yeah. Dominic, we're not going to talk about the duty increase that's happening in August. Every other email at the moment is from distilleries or bottlers or suppliers saying, we're sorry to say this, but the prices are going to be increasing as of the 1st. So, unfortunately, it's coming. There's nothing much we can do about it. It is what it is. Kat has kindly agreed to take a massive wage cut so that we can keep our prices down, which is very kind of her.
Did I?
There is another solution to that. People should buy whiskey now.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
you've got buy it now.
2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks to go before all the prices go up. So
you stock up. Yeah,
I know exactly.
Everybody
just takes a long swig of their whiskey after that conversation.
I feel like we should mention Glengarry after that, just to give everyone the chance to have a dram.
I know we've gone through a whole an hour and a half, and we haven't actually mentioned the distillery that must not be named. Mm-hmm. So we've done quite well.
So there we go. So everyone at home can have a wee dram there, courtesy of Dominic's question. So Slange. Awesome. Shilton, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a good laugh, and we've all, I think, learned something new. Even if it has been very bad dad jokes, we've learned something. That pomegranate wine cask is phenomenal. I wish I tried that before I put my order in.
Honestly, this is my favorite.
Yeah, we are getting milk and honey into the shop momentarily. The order is in; it's on its way. So I'm looking forward to that. The sherry cask, World Whisky of the Year, is among them. We're also getting some other funky stuff. Stunning, the Danish distillery, they managed to piggyback on that parcel that Shilton arranged for us. And because when the parcel came in, we saw this. We opened it, and Kat was on the shop, and I was like, "Oh, I thought he never mentioned that. Shilton never mentioned that he works for Stunning as well." So I thought he sent us this as well. Oh, we'll have to learn about this and talk about this on the show. But no, it was. Then we got a letter saying we'd love you to join our club kind of thing. So I was like, right, so that's something different altogether. So we'll get over M&H and then we'll go back and we'll research Stunning. But we've got a couple of their casks coming as well.
We've got a beautiful distillery. It looks lovely.
It looks awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
So the pomegranate wine cask is one that I will be getting in our next order as well. So definitely be up for that.
It's definitely going on my very crappy whiskey shelf that's behind me. It's definitely going to have a firm favorite place on there. I absolutely love it. It's amazing.
Right, guys. We're away to have a break for a month. So thank you so much for all your support coming and joining us from I think we're pretty much straight into it from January. So we haven't had a break apart from the odd enforced ones. And we will see you in August. We will give you plenty notice. As soon as we have that date booked in for Mariella, we will let you know when to expect us back on your screens. In the meantime, check out our emails, sign up to the mailing list, and keep up to date with our new stuff. Shilton, thank you very much for being our guest tonight. It's been great fun. And have a great summer. If you're going away on holiday, enjoy it. Make sure that you get a break. And thank you very much.
It's monsoon time in Goa at the moment, and I'm going to Goa as if it's not raining in Clydebank. Wrong time to go.
Right, yeah. And you enjoy your holiday as well, Shilton. We make sure you get a break and get away.
Sure. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you everyone for joining in.
Yeah, and come up and see us at the whiskey shop with pomegranate whiskey samples.
No, definitely. That is one thing on my list. I need to come up and see you guys at some point in the shop.
Please do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Not far away anyways now. So.
No, it's a couple of hours. Not far at all.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys. Good night. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.